right, hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Culture Report. I'm Jamal Simon.
I'm Laura Casillas.
And I'm Antonia Velez.
Yes, and we'll be seeing a whole lot more of Antonia around here, guys. So
Get excited.
Get excited, because we are. All right, we got a lot to get into, so let's just hop into it. So the Biden administration has been facing increased pressure from progressives to act on Gaza. Ceasefire rallies have been held internationally, and amid the protest is a call to action for voters, the non-committed vote. So this political strategy pulled some votes away from President Joe Biden and Donald Trump in the primary election. Organizers believe that this is necessary. This is a necessary response to what they consider the president's lack of action in regard towards the Middle East war.
It's been 5 months. It shouldn't have taken more than 30,000 people and more than 100 more trying to get food for him to speak up and to take action and to stop it and to call on a ceasefire, right?
Right now, if this voting trend continues to grow, what impact could this have on the results of this year's presidential election? Well, 9 News political analysts Alden Dillard and Kelly Maher weighed in on that.
I really think that this is kind of the existential crisis of the Democrat Party, right? Because the Republicans largely have now decided this is who we are and this is what we're doing, and it's Donald Trump. And now the question is, the Democrats have kind of this segment of people who have said, you know what, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to say no, I'm going to say that this is not the direction that we want to go. And the question is, how are they going to unify when you have something that is just so binary?
Right. I still think those people, if Biden doesn't get on his horse, are just going to sit it out, and then we may have 2016 all over again.
Yeah, and here in Colorado, when it came to the non-committed votes, they said they only got about between 6 and 8 when they were looking at the earlier results, and they said they would need at least 15% to really shake the table or make any kind of impact. But I see that other states around here have actually got close.
Yeah. I mean, the non-committed vote, or for some people a protest vote, is not a new thing, right? It's happened for various reasons throughout, history. But most recently in these primary elections, Michigan actually exceeded the baseline of non-committed votes that they were hoping for. And I think that says something. What do you guys?
No, I agree with you. For people that think, it may not have a huge impact, well, Michigan's just one example, but in 2000, when Gore was running against Bush, it was around 500 votes that actually gave that win to Bush. When they were, not voting, people were not voting. So when you think about it, yes, it can have an impact. It can actually, change the direction of an election. So my concern with this whole thing is, if you sit it out, I mean, does that really have an impact? Does it have the impact that you're looking for? If you don't have an alternative, is sitting out the only
Do you
way?
think it's, well, technically not sitting out, so the message is I'm going to vote, and I want you to know that I don't like any option here. But do you think that it's smart to weaponize your vote or utilize it as a form of protest to push your cause?
I think, well, I'm going to speak for the primary elections. I think it's not election day. It's not the general elections. Yeah. And I think that people should have the right to abstain from voting or doing what they want with their vote whenever they want, especially if they're trying to send a message. And I think that in this case, I wouldn't see it as a form of weaponizing. I would see it as a form of kind of overt protesting.
Yeah.
It's using something, your civic duty, and using something that's very yours to send a very clear message.
Yeah, I just fear if there isn't an alternative that they're going to disengage. A lot of people are not going to vote because the alternative isn't necessarily what they want better. But again, it's very harmful to our democracy, I think, to sit it out. I am all for the protest if that's what you want to stand for, but I still think people should engage once the time comes.
we'll see how this turns out.
Students and Latino organizations in Georgia are making pleas against hateful rhetoric directed at Hispanics and immigrants. This comes after the suspect in the slaying of a 22-year-old nursing student was revealed to be an undocumented immigrant from Venezuela. Laken Riley's body was found along a wooded trail on the University of Georgia campus. A friend reported her missing when she didn't return from a morning dog. Latino groups say they condemn the heinous crime and that the suspect charged with her murder must face justice. But at the same time, the groups say they have been the target of hate messages on social media and fear that anti-immigrant rhetoric may be on the rise. So scary, guys. I feel horrible for this family, Riley's family. I think this should be a time for, her family to grieve. And I hate that, this one person's action is now, sparking all this rhetoric around there.
It's wild to see how selective people can be sometimes. It's like they really love to make crazy, wild generalizations about people.
Yes.
And it's just because I just saw somebody on the news this week, a white man that killed someone, I'm not now thinking all white men are a cancer to the country and are killing everybody.
Totally.
It's very, very selective when it comes to it, and people are really being impacted. Even when it came to the rhetoric about the war in the Middle East, I have a lot of friends that are Indian, they aren't even Middle Eastern, but they are still getting a lot of hate because they don't really care what you are. If you look a little ethnic, you look a little brown, then you can get it.
Yeah, and we've seen it time and time again with politicians who, when their stance on something for example, immigration,
it's a big one.
when something like this happens, they take that and they run with it. It's this is, I would call this weaponizing, actually. They take something that is actually very tragic and very sad, and they use it to advance their political positions. And it's just furthering a stereotype for a specific group of people that is just horrible.
Yeah, and also it's making it unsafe for students and these organizations that advocate for immigrant groups. And I did see when I was reading the story that a lot of these members of these organizations and groups are taking down their information from the websites in fear with all these hateful messages that they're getting. I mean, imagine how scary it would be for you trying to do your job, trying to advocate for these groups and just fearing for your own safety at that point.
Especially in clubs and organizations that are meant to empower these people and make them feel proud of their heritage. Now feeling oh, I could be targeted. My safety could be at risk.
It's sad, but no one person should be the face of a collective.
Totally.
Their actions should not be that face.
Agreed.
A federal judge handed Latino and civil rights groups a victory just in time for the 2024 election, ruling that Florida can't ban non-citizens from registering voters. The judge determined that the provision in a Florida bill that would have assessed $50,000 worth of a fine for each non-citizen found to be, quote, collecting or handling voter registration applications violates constitutional equal protection rights. The injunction was an important win considering that Latinos and communities of color in general are more likely to register to vote through nonpartisan groups than their white counterparts.
All right, well, a study by the Latino Data Hub found that more Latino women are getting a college education than ever, even more than their male counterparts. And still, they earn less than Latino men and most other college-educated groups. So the median hourly wage for Latinos ages 25 and older with a bachelor's degree or higher is $26 for women and $32 for men. Now, let's broaden it out a little to other ethnic and racial groups. And by the way, this is still referring to folks 25 and older with a bachelor's degree or higher. According to this study, Native American women earn less than any other ethnic group, with a median hourly wage of $25, which is $5 less than Native American men's wage of $30. On average, Black women earn $27. That's $2 less than Black men, who earn an hourly wage of $29. Asian or Pacific Islander women earn an average of $36, whereas men earn $48. This means AAPI women make $12 less. And white women earn a median hourly wage of $30, which is $10 less than white men's hourly wage of $40. Also, a different study by the Human Rights Campaign found that trans women make only 60 cents for every dollar earned by the average American worker. Now, this is the largest wage gap reported in this study, which focused on LGBTQIA+ workers.
The Miss Universe organization is in hot water after a video leaked allegedly showing pageant leadership speaking negatively about some of its contestants.
Trans women, they're women with husband, divorced women.
Now when you change the limit age, I was able to participate. Yeah. You can come back again.
It's a strategy communication actually, because you understand. You will understand it earlier. They cannot be like, but we just put the policy out there, we have a inclusion. Yeah, social inclusion, and plus people will say that.
I learned everything.
That was pageant owner Anne Jakarajuthatip, who is a trans woman and mother herself, in what appeared to be a business meeting with other pageant executives. They are heard saying that even though the organization is accepting trans women, mothers, plus-size women, and women of any age to compete, they had no chance of winning. Jakarajuthatip even says that the winner is known long before the contest. The video went viral with some of the internet users calling out Miss Universe for its, quote, fake inclusivity. Miss Universe released a statement calling the video in part an attempt to smear the organization and that it stood as a beacon of empowerment and diversity.
Girl. Are we surprised?
Wow, what a scam. I am so sad to see that because I know these women, well, I don't know one personally, but I've seen them like really excel when they're responding. They're smart, they're beautiful. I'm sure it takes a long time to get there, to get them trained to be in this. And then to also like promote like, oh, we're so inclusive. Come in, you can participate. But they're not transparent, letting them know that you're not going to win.
I know how I feel, but do you guys think that just DEI in general, different DEI initiatives in general, whether it be like in these competitions or if it's in the workplace or in school, do you think it's a trend?
Oof. Well, I'm going to reframe my answer. I think that DEI can be very performative. I mean, all forms of activism and protest and all of that can be very performative. I think that DEI initiatives where there's actual tangible results and you're seeing impacts, like positive impacts on people and communities, that is inarguably like progressive and effective. What do you think?
I wholeheartedly believe that it's a trend, and that's well, trends fade. That's the only issue I have with it. But if you want to hop up on the DEI train, I appreciate it. But it's stuff like this where it's like, okay, where it actually is just surface level, just performative, where it's like, okay, we're going to let all these people compete. You can be divorced, you can be fat, skinny, black, white, trans, whoever, but you will not win. It's solely just so your face can be on screen and people can say like, oh, good job, guys.
Right.
We have no interest in actually giving you a fair chance.
It's just so they don't get canceled.
But at the same time, and we're going to play devil's advocate, it is a business, right? They have, to make money, they have to be able to make Miss Universe make money. It costs money to send these models to go and perform and, have this whole pageant. So yes, she can, put all these rules, but of course she wants a bigger audience. So yes, she can use this to her advantage, these DEI initiatives where be inclusive, but I think she should be transparent. The whole organization should be transparent. So that way these women, because I think it's so disrespectful to them, so disrespectful, they can then make the decision to say, I will go and participate, I'll compete, whatever it is you want at that point, if it is just exposure. But I mean, I've seen some of these competitors, like Miss Nepal was one of like the plus size models. I can't imagine, even as a mom too, having to like find childcare, having to do all these things to be a part of this pageant, only to find out that it's been rigged the whole time.
And we're kind of gliding over the elephant in the room, which is that this is a trans woman who took ownership over this universe competition. So it's just the pageant. So it's like kind of wild to me. Like, I get it. Maybe she's trying to have like a, I don't know, look like a woman, think like a man type of mindset, which women think they have to do. It's
You would
like,
think she
okay,
would
I want to roll with the
advocate.
big dog. I'm going to have that kind of mentality so they can take me seriously. I don't know.
It's just not right
Yeah,
in any way. Like any way you look at it, it's just not right. You're wasting women's time. You are being performative. You are using DEI initiatives or a DEI mentality to your advantage and not to benefit others. I just think it's horrible.
The owner did say that they were just trying to like tarnish her organization. That's, you know, the kind of like the message that she said, that it's been manipulated. So we'll keep watching and see where that goes. But I think this definitely made it really bad for this pageant to keep going.
Agreed.
For
All right.
sure.
Well, in Colorado, people of color are impacted the most by air pollution. That's according to a recent study by CU Boulder. The study echoes findings from previous research, like a 2021 publication from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency that says air pollution exposure is higher for communities of color throughout the entire nation. The CU study found Hispanic and Native American groups are the most affected in Denver. A researcher from the university said the results are a reflection of systemic racism.
This is just a big example of systemic racism because people do not, choose necessarily where they live. A lot of that is due to economic and political factors, but where they live definitely determines how much air pollution they experience and negative health effects that come with that.
All right, so what are your guys' thoughts?
I'm just going to start saying I lived in Swansea for a little while. I woke up to the smell of that, Purina company there all the time. I'm sure I inhaled a lot of all those pollutants. And my mom lives in Commerce City. These are both areas in Colorado that have a lot of these industrial facilities. And firstly, that's the only places that my family would be able to afford a home, especially like right now, if they were even trying to buy. So it doesn't surprise me that, this study came out because it's been going on for so long. What is surprising to me is that now it's gaining more attention and that they are being fined with heftier amounts. Like Suncor just got the historic amount that they were fined, over $10 million for a lot of the violations that they've committed. So I'm not surprised. I'm happy that celebrities are even coming into Colorado. Jane Fonda came in to kind of elevate that message a little bit more.
Right.
So it's definitely garnering more attention.
Right, totally.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like it's intentional as we can see, even in Houston, where I'm from, over on the east side, that's where you see a large, percentage of the people of color that live there. And that's where all the factories are. That's where all the power plants are, whatever. And so forth. So I know the air is polluted. You can smell it all the time, especially if you go down to Pasadena. If you know, you know. And literally, the nickname is Stankadena. I'm like, it's polluted,
Oh, no.
So polluted. And for the people that are like, well, why would you move there? I'm like, many of those plants and stuff were put there after we got there. So it's it was intentional. And I know that they target areas where they feel like there won't be improvement, because they definitely wouldn't put that in the wealthier areas, because they know people are going to complain. They're like, oh no, that's where we want to put all our
Right.
money. That's where we want to, put the nice schools and put the nice houses, and
They
that would
want
not
cheaper.
fly. It wouldn't fly.
Also, like the researcher said, a lot of this is a direct result of racist practices such as redlining, which resulted in less investments in certain lands, less leading to less value, quote unquote, value to the land, and then leading industries to wanting to, save more money or earn their benefits, their income. They move their industries to this land, and in turn, you're not allowing these communities that live there to have a chance at better health outcomes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a repetitive cycle. And a lot of people will say, well, systemic racism doesn't exist.
Oh, it does.
Racism does not exist. Environmental racism is one of the most overt and clear forms of racism in the United States. And I would argue, in a lot of places in the world.
But a lot of people, I think, don't see it, Antonia, because on the surface level, it just looks like you said, it's just areas that have these cheaper homes that you can buy and demolish, cheaply. But these are the areas that are populated by poorer communities. So they are disproportionately, putting these facilities in there. So
Right.
maybe it's not completely easy for you to see, but it does happen.
Yeah.
Like even I was reading too, like Mississippi has even a cancer alley place called, that is really, really big with all these industrial facilities in there. And so there are parts that are very, very concentrated with these facilities.
Right. I mean, the Flint crisis in Michigan.
Yeah.
Ongoing.
The examples go on and on and on. But yeah, I think you're right. But I mean, just opening a history textbook and reading up on the history of the United States, it becomes quite clear that this is just an example, an extension of racism.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, y'all, we have an update. The allegations against Sean Diddy Combs keep coming. So he's now being sued by a music producer. Combs is being accused of repeated instances of unsolicited groping and sexual touching. A lawyer for Combs called the event pure fiction. This is just one of several sexual assault suits filed against Combs in recent months. And the latest episode of Shannon Sharp's podcast, Club Shay Shay, wasn't as explosive as the last few that have gone viral over the past several weeks, but it was just as impactful. Actor Terry Crews joined and discussed everything from his football career to how he got started in acting and his experience after suing a Hollywood talent agent for sexually assaulting him.
If it hadn't happened to me and I heard it, I'd have been like, man, what is this dude talking about? That's why I never got mad. I couldn't get mad at people going, man, what are you doing, man? You big ass Terry Crews. Right. But see, I'd already been through probably 8 years of therapy, me and my wife, rebuilding, me understanding what true power was. I mean, look, it's like saying I'm too big to get shot. Well,
actually, you the perfect size.
You see what I'm saying? Hey, well, if the bullet hit,
yeah.
I didn't, you know what I mean? I'm big, I'm giant, my chest was so, no, that went right through. I'm standing there and it happened.
Yeah.
Just if I acknowledge, if I don't say nothing, that don't mean it didn't happen.
Correct.
So what does that mean?
The whole interview was so powerful. Y'all should definitely check it out. But like he said, just because he doesn't talk about it, just if he doesn't bring it up, like it doesn't mean it didn't happen. So it makes you think like how many other men has this happened to? And they're like, okay, well, I'm gonna be laughed out of the room, so I'm not gonna say anything. So it sucks that it took him years and years to finally come forward, but I definitely respect him. And I know a lot of people in the black community, especially on black Twitter, they were lighting him up when he came out. They're like, Terry Crews, they're like, you're 6 foot, you're the buffest guy in Hollywood. What's going on? What are you talking about? Like, and it still happens. Like,
It does. There's also the other myth too that it only happens to gay men. Jamal, that's another thing. And I think that's also maybe like a factor why a lot of these men don't talk about it. But even if you're a straight man, if you're big, if whatever you look like, no matter how macho you are, it can happen to them too.
Totally. Consent is just so important, and the lack of consent can have the same consequences and repercussions no matter who you are, what you look like, what your sexual orientation is, what your gender identity is. Like, it's just something that can actually have really horrible psychological repercussions. And so the fact that, he's talking about it, I think is incredibly powerful, and more people should talk about the fact that it can happen to men, it can happen to anyone.
yeah, and he did say that he spent about $500,000 worth of in legal fees for the civil suit, and it did end up, the guy did end up losing his job. He was away, they refunded all of his money, and he was just saying thankfully he's in a position where he can spend $500,000 to see justice. He was because I know so many people it happens to every single day and they can't do a thing.
Totally.
So I really love that he spoke out, and hopefully that will give somebody else the courage to speak up.
And these men that are criticizing them, I mean, shame on them. They should just, stand behind him. That's not the way to go.
Absolutely. Laura, lift my spirits.
Let's hop on to this week's good news. Sha'Carri Richardson can take over a racetrack, but now we can see how well she can also take over a runway. The Dallas native and one of the world's fastest sprinters was featured as the face of Nike's new fashion collaboration with the French brand Jacquemus. Richardson took her accomplishment to X, posting a picture of her photo on a building that read, "Being from the city, representing the city, to being posted in the city," she shared.
And reproductive rights advocates are celebrating after France became the first country to make abortion a constitutional right. On Monday, lawmakers approved a bill that will enshrine abortion in the French Constitution in a staggering 780 to 72 vote. This is a measure that was promised by President Emmanuel Macron after the United States rolled back abortion rights.
And RuPaul is co-founding a bookstore and launching a bus tour to distribute banned books. He hopes Allstora will shine a brighter light on authors who are underrepresented. RuPaul posted on social media saying Allstora will be, quote, supporting you, all voices, everywhere. And I love to see it, especially when you see like the books that are being banned recently, like just if it has any sort of queer
There's
theme
no
in there
silencing.
whatsoever, like it can be subject to getting banned.
Totally.
Or I saw in Florida, like if something was written by an author, they had to have permission to get their kids to read it. It's
Just
some
horrible.
wild thing. So I think some really great stories are being told. A lot of our history is in those books. A lot of our experiences are in those books. And I really appreciate all the effort. Thank you, RuPaul.
And go
Thank you,
France.
RuPaul.
I'm so excited to see that.
too.
And go off for, America, catch up, mustard.
Yeah.
Seriously.
For real.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining this week's Culture Report. We'll be back to continue the conversation next Thursday right here on 9 News Plus and 9news.com.